coming from a missions background and then going into coffee trading. You're going from just loving people, serving people, building people up to coffee trading, which is an industry bent on keeping poor people poor, is the way I look at it. Like coffee's a value chain. It's not a value stream. It's a value chain. And that's one of the things, Long Miles is what Christy really started talking about. It's like, we got to make this a value stream, not a value chain.
Welcome to the Feast Over Famine podcast. On this podcast, we're navigating the tension that we find where mission and profit collide. We're talking to CEOs, founders, executive directors, impact investors, and all of what we've identified as the global ecosystem of the social enterprise, business for transformation, business as mission landscape. We're talking to them about the obstacles they face, the strategic challenges they've been through, how they're funded, how they were started, and everything that's happened in between. We are trying to share their story in a way that's impactful to help us all to grow the social enterprise space for the better. Enjoy this week's episode with your host, Ryan Mahaffey.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Feast Over Famine podcast. Really stoked you guys are listening and hanging out with us. And I'm really excited about today's episode. We've got Ben Carlson from Long Miles Coffee. I got introduced to Ben almost a year ago at this point, I think, maybe a little less than, and started working with them on some stuff that they're doing. And, the coolest thing for me about Long Miles has been just the intentionality and some of the really depth of thought and how they're doing things, how they're going about it, how they're shaking up industries and doing those kinds of things. And so as I just started work with them and understood all that, I was like, we got to get you guys on the podcast. So Ben, welcome to the podcast. I'm stoked you're here and really excited about this conversation.
Well, thanks for having me, Ryan. And I just got to say right off the bat, stoked. Love the word. Glad you dropped it in there. I'm now we're on the same level. I was born in the 70s, I'm just in stoked. Just works for me.
Oh yeah.
I get it. I'm there.
I just had a mountain bike whenever I have a mountain bike race weekend, I talk like a Ninja Turtle for like 3 days straight. So I'm like, we're just shredding. It was so gnarly and just full send and the bros. And
I've got a 6-year-old daughter who was looking at something the other day and she's got 2 older brothers. She's like, sick, man. I'm like, oh wow. Where does this come from? I'm like, I get it.
I refer to Caden as bruh all the time. Like, bruh, you got to stop doing that. Bruh, you got yogurt all over your face. Like, come on. It's so funny.
The new one is my man. I'm like,
I don't like that one. I don't know if I like that one.
Well, if you, I don't have time to game like I guess I don't wish I even did. But like, yeah, these gamers that were it blew my mind when YouTube came out or not YouTube, Twitch, and you're watching people playing games. And my wife, Christy, she's the co-founder of Long Miles, and we were in Burundi, and then the kids is probably a couple of years after it actually became a fad because we were in Burundi, and all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, you're not playing the video game, you're watching someone play the video game. They're like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm like, and that's where my man, I'm like, I don't get it, my man, I don't get it. Yeah, I'm glad to be here, my man. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, Bud. Bud is my other one. So that when someone calls me Bud, my skin crawls a little. So funny. Especially when they're like my same age or like 2 years older than me.
Oh,
yeah.
I did actually drop that the other night when we took a family vacation. It was awesome. And Christy's family with them, and we were playing Settlers of Catan. I don't know if you've heard of this game. It's just and I dropped, oh, good job, buddy. When I was just completely wiping the board with, a victory. And it was
you mean, really wait, hold on. You mean the international
condescending
coffee import export guy was crushing it at Settlers of Catan, wiping the board clean, and that's kind of funny.
Can we just say I'm up for anybody who wants to play? I'm just, I'll be, I'll send you my travel schedule and you just meet up in wherever we're at, Uganda, Kenya, hopefully Burundi.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's people, when I'm about to lose a game like that, and when I know I'm not going to win it, because the only point is to win. right? Like you're playing a board game. I mean, you're having fun, right? But like getting second or third place doesn't really do anything. It's winning. And so occasionally in a game like that, especially Settlers, if I'm in like second or third place and I know I'm not going to win, I'll just try to make sure the person who is winning can't win, because that's more fun for me for the rest of the game. So I'll just try to like plot people against them or do different things. People get so mad. Yeah, it's so mad. It's so funny.
Like, I'm never playing with you again, Ryan. This is terrible.
Anyways, that's super funny. Well, dude, so Long Miles Coffee, we're mainly here to talk about that and some fun tangents about things, but there's a few interesting points. I'll kind of hit them up front here so people can listen for them. One, you can share what you guys do more. I mean, you're an international import export, coffee company focused in Africa. You'll go into all that stuff, but just for a baseline. But you guys had a missions background and chose to go into like the business field and do ministry that way. You guys have raised capital successfully. You've gone through a lot of seasons of that. You've paid back loans and capital, which I think is really cool. And really have integrated like a cool impact model into like the everyday business piece. Like you guys don't have those as separate things. It's not like, hey, we're doing the business and then with the money we're doing the impact. Like you've really integrated well. So as people listen to this podcast, I hope they're kind of listening for those kinds of things and what we're going to talk about and what's going on now. But why don't you give me like a quick 30-second, like what is Long Miles Coffee? Who are you guys? What do you guys do?
Yeah. So Long Miles Coffee, we're coffee producers. And I think that's in and of itself, that says, if it had no other thing to say, Long Miles Coffee produces coffee in East Africa, but not just coffee, it's specialty coffee. So what is specialty coffee? It's like, if you think of a pyramid, it's the very peak tip top, like the most unique, special, these little, hipster cafes that roast coffee too light. And you're like, what is this? Don't use sugar. That's where our coffee goes.
This didn't land in my burr grinder the way it usually does. What's wrong with this? I actually did that. I'm guilty of that. I did that recently. I texted someone I know who owns a coffee roaster. I was like, dude, like, I don't think like my grinder's on the same setting and this coffee was terrible. And it's like, it ended up that they had a weird batch. Something happened with it, but
so you called it. I mean, you're the right guy, Ryan. So
I was guilty of that. I mean, I kind of felt like a pretentious, terrible human, but that's what you guys are. It's specialty. It's great.
We are. Oh, I thought you were saying you are the pretentious, terrible person. But
no.
But it is. But essentially, it is. It's really, in some ways, very niche, because your average coffee drinkers, they want their dark roasted, maybe grocery store, or their, the mermaid coffee, or, or the donut coffee, or one of those guys. But then there's a world that we kind of live and work in that's like this unique specialty coffee. And so we started growing our own coffee and working alongside East African smallholder farmers in 2013. We had been, before that, I'd been a coffee trader for a couple of years. And before that, like you said, we'd done 10 years of campus ministry with an organization called the Navigators in South Africa. So we've been in Africa since 2022, January 2022. And just going through, backing up, going through campus ministry was great. It's the idea of discipleship, the idea of like impacting future leaders of South Africa. But at some point we just, I think when you're an entrepreneur and you have just this internal drive and this just desire to go out and do, then we, at one point, Christy and I kind of looked at each other and said, we gotta use our gifts and our passions. And so that's what brought us to Burundi at first, just as a consultant to see if there was any good coffee. And then that turned into hey, Christy, I think we should move here, which turned into a Google search, which was a disaster. Don't Google search Burundi in 2010. That was fun. And then 2011, we moved there. 2010, 2011, we moved there, and I did just coffee trading for an international coffee trader. And the most interesting thing is, coming from a missions background and then going into coffee trading, you're going from just loving people, serving people, building people up, to coffee trading, which is an industry bent on keeping poor people poor, is the way I look at it. Like coffee is a value chain. It's not a value stream. It's a value chain.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, at Long Miles, what Christy really started talking about is like, we got to make this a value stream, not a value chain.
Yeah. Yeah. So just for people who don't know, real quick, we put an infographic in your pitch deck, which is pretty great, but like, how does coffee get to my cup here?
Exactly.
Like if I'm drinking a cup of coffee right now, how did this get here? And where do you guys fit in that process? Can you share that really quick?
Yeah. So there's the actual shrub, like a coffee tree is actually a shrub, and that's grown on the side of the mountain, hand-picked. And that's by some of the 6,000 farmers in Burundi or the 6,000 farmers in Uganda that we work with, or hopefully next year, hopefully the Kenyan farmers in Western Kenya that we'll work with. So they pick the cherry, and then we've got our own farms and we'll pick our own cherries. And then they'll bring it to Long Miles, which has a washing station. So it's kind of almost like a cooperative, almost like a collective place where all the farmers bring their raw cherries, and then we pulp it, ferment it, dry it in the sun on these tables, and then we hull it at a third party. We'd hire out a dry mill that takes off the outer parchment, and then it becomes green, and we ship that around the world to roasters. Then we directly make relationships with roasters, and so your local roaster then buys like 5 bags, and 5 bags, they're like 132 pounds each. 5 bags, 10 bags of these of our coffee, they roast it up, give you your coffee. Yeah. So we're kind of at the beginning stage where we're farming, but we're also working with smallholders. And the unique thing is that we're really friends with these farmers. Like, we're our neighbors. We're farming together. We're sharing local technology. We're not doing anything like, because Ben is American, he's got all this access to capital or whatnot.
Totally.
We're using cow manure because we can't get fertilizer. We're using mulch from the grass. But the unique thing is, so we're friends with these farmers, but then on the flip side, we're friends with coffee drinkers and coffee roasters. There's some of my best friends are in, coffee roaster in San Francisco and in Melbourne and in Korea. So like, we got this unique spot where we're friends on both sides of this industry. Yeah. And we're right at the start of it, but we carry the beans all the way to really almost to the end consumer.
Yeah, which is super cool. So without talking about the Coffee Scout program, because we're going to talk about that in a second, so let's isolate that. And I really enjoyed this conversation because I think Jeff on your team was just joining you. And so I think one of our first meetings, we were doing some onboarding, and I'm like berating you with stuff and questions. And then I just got kind of intrigued, and I was like, hey, this doesn't even matter for what we're doing. So like, we'll just won't even count this as like part of the engagement. I'm just interested. And then Jeff's like, hey, wait, what about this? And so it was kind of cool. Like, what are the 2 or 3 kind of business practices, economics that you guys have in place with the washing station and stuff, not the Coffee Scout program, but outside of that make you guys different? Because this is a massive industry, right? I mean, all the, and I don't know the numbers, maybe you can share them, but like specialty coffee roasters and your hipster shops, as you called it, like an Intelligentsia or like Huckleberry here in Denver, stuff like that. Like, those are probably pretty small in comparison to the global coffee consumption industry. And so it's a massive industry, but you guys are doing some things really different that is better for farmers and trying to do it almost like a company like a Patagonia does, where they say, hey, we want to be ethical in these things. Well, so share with us kind of like, what are a couple of those things that you guys have chosen to do different? And also, how has that harmed you guys in the sense of like, how have you intentionally made your business more difficult on yourself because that's the right thing to do in the process?
Well, I think one of the important things is especially if people are like Christy and I are followers of Jesus. We're not doing campus ministry anymore, but like our DNA hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. So like first and foremost, we say, okay, well, we got to run our business, not just ethically, because like Patagonia or anybody could be an ethical business. There's a lot of great ethical business, a lot of Christians who run non-ethical businesses. So We're like, okay, how do we run and how do we really make this like stand up to our faith values and our personal values? And since Christy and I are the sole owners of the company, we're like, oh, we'll just make it based on what we believe. Like, so we started off the company with like 4 pillars of like, we got to make an economic impact for the farmers we work with, for our family and our team, but also roasters. Like, we're going to look at every, but that's just like a business bottom line where you're like a stick or a BSOC, like everybody wins, everybody makes money. Great. Which is great. But the second thing is like, we also need to make a social impact. Like, man, we're in Burundi, one of the poorest countries in the world, and now in Western Uganda, which is rivaling it, hopefully next year into Western Kenya, which is also at that same poverty level. Which we're like, how do we get people healthcare, food security, like issues with women and men and family structures and all that. So we're like, hey, we got to have a bottom line of social. And then we're like, well, really, we follow Christ. We need to make a spiritual bottom line. Like if we're not making a spiritual impact in community, that's not who we are. So let's just have it part of our core. And then the last one was environmental. Like we really have to take care of the environment for our company, for our farmers, and just what we're called to do. So I think that's what we kind of started out as, and those really guided us at the beginning. And then we really kind of honed it in on making sure that we have quality and story. We always say, look at it through two lenses. When we're talking about long miles, you got to have a great story. Yeah. It has to be great coffee. And then you can have a compelling product. Then you can have a compelling business. And so that's where we started from.
That's awesome. That's super cool. What about on the economic side? So I know there's a little bit of like, so when the farmers are bringing stuff to the washing station, I thought it was really interesting. I think it's in Burundi. There's actually a certain amount you can or can't pay because there's these like ranges on it. And so even if you guys wanted to pay more, you can't. And so that's like a really interesting concept. And I'm curious how you guys have wrestled with that, like where you've landed on, okay, here's what we're going to buy for. And we have the government telling us we can't buy for too much. And part of the reason for that, my understanding was like, then just that price would keep going up out of competition. And then that's actually more harmful than good. And so I guess talk to me about that economic piece at the washing stations when people bring them and how you've wrestled with that.
Well, I mean, the one thing is like kind of dialing back a little bit is if you're going to be going into business, you have to be going into business. This can't be a cover story. Like if anybody's, if you got people who listen and like, I want to start a coffee company so that I can, share Jesus and the gospel, but then don't go out there and just really kick butt and just do an amazing job. Totally. Like, don't do it. Like, this is serious. Like, we're talking about 12,000 families' lives dependent on us being successful. Yeah. And the more ridiculously successful we are, the more thriving these communities are. Right. So first and foremost, like back it up and be like, we and real quick, 2013, we were playing a game. We called it Long Miles Coffee Project at first. It's like, oh, it's a project. We'll help some families. Within like 3 months, I was like, oh, you need working capital. Yeah. Oh, we got to figure out how to sell that. Oh, like all of a sudden all these things start coming. So I think first and foremost, recognizing, okay, if we have to make this work, economics have to work. Yeah, totally. So then the next thing is for us was like learning like the rule, like working in Burundi is like a different world than working in Uganda. And they're just like a 1-day drive from each other and completely different than working in Kenya. So, I mean, Burundi, it's like a dance. And I promise you, we could make a movie of every single year of production over the last 10 years of working in Burundi. It's like, we've gone through a coup d'etat. We've gone through government seizing all the money from everyone to having to smuggle in diesel fuel from Congo because we just didn't have any fuel to it's not just economics. You have to pay the farmers now or we take away your business, which is right now we got 8 days to pay the farmers all the money that we owe them for the year because you're not allowed to pay them early after the 31st. The government is saying to us, oh, we arbitrarily set this date. If you don't pay this, we could take all your coffee and your business. It's crazy. It's like, but you also can't get someone to pre-finance you in Burundi. You can't get somebody just to send money as a loan to pre-finance coffee. That's illegal. And you can't use dollars. You can't, every time money comes in the country, it has to be exchanged at the local bank rate, not the real rate. So there's so many handcuffs that part of the economic success or nature of doing business is just learning what are the hoops, how do you do it, and how do you be agile. And it's one of the things that probably has helped us, weather the storm of the last 10 years of producing coffee, is like learning like every year is going to be different. There's going to be a new major challenge. What's it going to be this year? So when the challenge comes up, we're like, oh, that's it. Oh, there we go. That was the challenge.
There's like a business impact. There's a spiritual impact. There's a relational impact. There's a community impact. Like every time those things come in, every little decision you're making on that. I mean, people might be listening to that and saying, oh yeah, it's just kind of normal, like international politics working. But when you care deeply about the supply chain, like you guys are saying, then every one of those challenges becomes like a huge battle, because you have to think about how that affects those people and all those things down the line. And so I think that's something you guys have done really well, is like, you don't shove that aside and just make quick decisions. You guys have along the way had to like make the tough decisions, do that well, which is really cool, which kind of leads to the Coffee Scout program then. So this is probably one of the more, maybe most unique cornerstones of what you guys do and how you do it. So, and it's different. So let's just start with it by saying, this isn't something other companies like yours does, right? They don't have coffee scouts that are going out doing what you're doing. So let's just say this is a long miles only thing, which means you're spending money on it. And that's not a normal thing as well. But with that precedent, talk to me about the Coffee Scout program, why you started it and what the purpose of it is.
Yes. We started in 2014 after a year of being there. And one of the reasons was just looking at, we started Long Miles because we saw just the poverty and the inability for smallholder farmers in East Africa and worldwide coffee farmers to get out of poverty is nearly impossible. So how do you do that when you're also handcuffed coffee and economically and business and like governmentally? So one of the things we saw was there was a agrarian gap in understanding of how to just do proper agriculture and do agribusiness and how to have food security for your family. So we're talking, it's trendy in America to have, farm to table, but when you're in Burundi, it's literally dirt to table today. If I didn't dig it up, I'm not going to eat it.
Yeah.
So, but yet you're talking about people who are, doing really poor practices on farming, and they're underperforming on everything from coffee to potatoes to onions to bananas. So in 2014, we had a woman working with us, finishing her PhD at the time, Lauren Rosenberg at the time. And she's like, we got to do something to help these farmers. And so then we had one agronomist that was working. We were one of the only companies in the whole country that hired an agronomist to be with them full time. Wow. And an agronomist, just the guy that's there to agricultural support the family. He's like, well, if I had a team, we had 180 farmers at the time. He's like, I can't meet every one of these farmers. Right. What if we had a team and we go to these hills, you have to walk and it's raining and it's like, and we could start doing this training. And we're like, yeah, like scouts, they're scouting out what needs to be done. Like, yeah, but they're coffee scouts.
Yeah.
So we're like, So in 2014, we launched it with 4 coffee scouts, and their fearless leader is Epaphras Dukamana. And he just, all of 4 foot, maybe 3, if he's in big shoes, and just a dynamite. But he goes on the hill and he is like the Pied Piper. You cannot see but a crowd surrounding him. And And so what we did was he helped put together a training program for these 4 scouts. And those 4 scouts are now 32 scouts. Wow. And they go on over 12 unique hills, which have little sub hills, and they go 2 by 2, and they go out and train year round. And so we've got these kind of year round agricultural support team that are helping with coffee, but right now they're actually in the middle of a coffee kids camp. And so it's in between harvest and pruning campaign. So they're running, what you would call maybe a, daily vacation Bible school or something, but we're called coffee camp. And they learn, they're singing songs, they're having a meal, they're doing competitions to win their school supplies for the year. And we end up giving away last year we ran it. I think there was 3,000 kids in it. This year I think there's planning to be about 5,000 kids in our coffee camp. And it's a bit of it's kind of like a 3-ring circus in some ways.
Totally. It's just like, what the heck is going on here? That is wild. And are you guys funding that whole thing then, like out of profits along miles?
Yeah.
Wow. That's super cool.
Because there's nothing for the kids to do. and they're the future of Burundi, and they're coffee farming. They're the future of Long Miles to be a sustainable business are these kids. And it's also just that social, spiritual, and environmental impact. It's like, how do you be a better steward of your environment? How do you, take care of your coffee? How can we just have fun together and play some games? It's all these things.
Totally. And that's super cool. And so tell me a success story from the Coffee Scout thing. I mean, some family that, whether it's their coffee was just like horrible and then they're able to, they're like struggling, all their friends are, or, something where they like start thriving and now they're an employee, I don't know. Give me the fun success story of that.
I mean, the fun success manual is, we have this company out of London called M Cultivo do a third party kind of impact report for us. And
that's right.
And as they're doing this report, we're just, we thought we were doing all this good stuff and we were hearing little stories, but it was just like, we got that impact report from them. And it was what brought me to tears, just hearing like lives are changing.
Wow.
Now a lot of times families would only send one kid to school. Now all their kids are going to school. There's like women's involvement in coffee versus just their husband taking all the cash themselves.
Yeah.
Ownership of lands, things like that. But just anecdotally, after the Coffee Scouts started working with this one lady right near our farm at the bouquet washing station, Christy and I were there. We had this old Land Rover and we were driving up there and we're jumping in, we're getting out. You can't miss us because, we fire that thing up and just, whoa. And we're about to jump in, take off. And this lady comes running up with us with this huge basket of bananas. And she stops us and she says, I need to thank you. Before Long Miles came, I could only send my son to school. And now my daughter gets to go to school and I need you to take it. She gets this huge basket of bananas.
Wow.
And she's just crying and thanking us. And we're taking this huge, we can't even lift this basket of bananas. And she carried it to us on her head. But I mean,
that's
even
cool.
That alone was the Coffee Scouts were able to help these farmers. They're producing 5 times as much coffee and 4 times as much bananas intercropping in their fields as their neighbors are. And so the scouts are doing the work. And I mean, Christy and I can't go on every, hill helping 3, 4, 5, 6,000 families. So it's scaled beyond what we thought we were going to do. That's for sure.
There's a lot interesting in there, but one of the interesting things with the impact report you guys did that gave you some of that data. Just real quick, talk to me about like how you guys decided to do that. I mean, I think there's a lot of organizations. I mean, it's an expensive process. I don't know what you guys spend on that, but it's not cheap. And so I think a lot of organizations sometimes say, I'd love to do that. And it can be like $5,000 to $30,000 for something like that. And so they're like, it's not the benefit of having it doesn't outweigh the cost. And so what was the point in your guys' as a leader of an impact focused company that you said, this would be valuable? And just if you're encouraging someone else or thinking about whether to do that or when to do that, and any lessons learned there?
Yeah, I think there's 2 parts of it. One was that authenticity is really important for us. And I think it's probably important for every industry, but for coffee as a whole, all of a sudden if you're not authentic and if you're not true in the special coffee industry, you're going to get found out.
Totally.
So we are saying that we're making an impact, but can we actually, I'm just, I get sick if I look online and somebody's saying, look at the good we're doing with this direct trade coffee. I'm like, you took one visit to Guatemala. You're not a direct trade. You were a coffee tourist. It's like,
totally.
How do we, as we live with our neighbors producing coffee, how do we know we're actually doing a good thing? And if we're not, we want to do a good thing. And where aren't we doing a good thing? So that was so authenticity and being able to really live up to our core values. That was just big part of what was important on the first side of it. And the second side of it is, we've been going through a series of capital raises and, we were trying to look at the impact investing world, and we wanted to show this impact investing world, doing this, don't take our word for it. We got a third party coming in. Yeah. And that was a great, I wouldn't even say it was like a tool, but it was more like it was a really just a great way to showcase, hey, we're doing great coffee. Our financials look great, but look at this. We're actually doing the impact, and it's not a show. We're not doing some ministry or some kind of Bible study on the side. No, this is what we do is our impact. And that was the most important thing for us. And then it kind of helped with kind of one of the capital raises, and just kind of showing these investors like, you guys are authentic and who you are.
Cool. That's awesome. And a great segue into the next question that I had, which is like the capital raise piece. All right, everyone, I want to take a quick break from today's episode and just share a little bit about Impact Foundation, who's got an incredibly awesome model of using impact investment, charitable dollars, and funding tons of projects all over the world right now. What if your investments could change the world? At Impact Foundation, they believe business with purpose has the power to transform society. Purpose-built for impact investing, Impact Foundation provides a streamlined way to fund businesses that seek social and spiritual transformation or make loans to charity, all while earning a financial return to grow your giving. Donors and investors have already supported more than 200 redemptive enterprises through their impact accounts. They provide needed fuel for companies that exist as a force of God's redemptive work in the world. To learn more about what they're doing in their Kingdom Impact Investing model, visit impactfoundation.org. So there's been, I guess we could break this up a little bit. I mean, a lot of organizations go through seasons where they need capital, and then they need to wrestle through the type of capital. Are we going to do debt? Are we going to do equity? It's going to be a loan, what's the interest rate? How long are we going to pay it back? And are we going to pay it back on time and all this stuff? It's a lot. And so talk to me a little bit about the seasons that you guys have said, yes, let's do a capital raise. Like what was valuable in that, some of the lessons you've learned in it, and how that just has gone for you guys as you guys have approached that as an impact focused company.
Yeah, that's how we've approached it, is stumbling, falling, smacking our head on branches, getting back up, spinning around.
Totally.
I mean, if I was going to paint it in this beautiful light, I would be like, we've raised, 1.7 million, and we've exited a lot of it, and it's been, working with great people and working with some wonderful organizations to get there. The stumbling and falling part was probably, like taking on some investments early on that we didn't know what we were doing, and we didn't get the right proper legal advice to structure it, to say, this is what it looked like. And so it made messy endings and made it difficult where, disjointed. It's like, wait a minute, we're this company, not who you want us to be. And but it also taught us great business practices, and it helped us, make some great exits out of some other investments, so we've had, some kind of friends and family, 1.6 million in, we've been able to exit out of, and now we've been able to take on some more, raised actual, not that friends and family is an actual capital, but, taking on some, I'd say it's more structured, financial capital as we've grown. And that's how we got to, grow to 3 washing stations in Burundi. And which just capitalized this year when all of a sudden we had this bumper crop, and then be able to start purchasing land in Uganda. And now we've raised another 700,000 to grow Uganda. So it's just you need large amounts of capital. You need those influxes of capital
to do it. Yeah. What's been the wrestling on debt versus equity for you guys? So as you've gone through those seasons and said, man, we could bring on equity, someone else, they could have that. I mean, part of it comes down if you have an exit strategy or not, but what has that been for you guys? Cause that's a really tough piece it's not black and white. It's a different answer for everybody. So for your story, for you and Christy, what does that look like?
I think the story started off with, we took some capital, like I said, early on, that was more napkin math, equity partnership. And that's, it just taught us, one, be serious about this. We're talking about resources that are important and about growing your company. You're not playing. You're not doing just you're not doing some little ministry to help out some community. This is you got to do it with excellence. So that early equity raise that we didn't even realize was a raise taught us that, man, we, going in, if you're going to have an equity partner, everything better line up, and it better be really good partnership. And you better have that legally written down and have someone smarter than yourself put that deal together and fight for things that you don't even know you should fight for. So that early exit out of that investment was critical, and it helped set us up for the future. And then, so since then we've done a combination of both. And I think it just depends on the deal. We've done some just debt only deals, which is what we really like. But then sometimes you get over leveraged and you just can't do that. So now we've taken some debt with, a little kicker of revenue on their revenue share once we hit certain benchmarks. And that's really helped.
Cool.
And then for our Uganda piece, we actually took a equity partner to grow Uganda, which I said, we're done with equity partners, but it was like, it just made sense. It's like,
totally.
This makes sense. And now we're starting harvest on Monday, this next week.
Cool. Very cool.
And still in the whirlwind of construction. So it's like, it's all of these things. So it's like, there's not one answer. It's where you're at. And also, right. I don't know if you've seen this, but like with economic, what's happening in the economy, it's like, where do people feel comfortable? And, and where are you at as a company? But for Long Miles, I'm saying, well, we're 10 years in, we're no longer a startup.
Yeah.
Now we're scaling. We've got a proof of concept that works.
Totally.
And so I feel like every company is going to be in a little different position based on
100%,
longevity, proof of concept. What's the growth strategy, and people could put in royalties or put in convertible notes and all these things. But for us, it's like, man, it's just about values and about making sure that if you have to question your values because actually I just got to make my equity partners, their buy, you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, totally. No, those are some good words for people who are in it. And it's a tough wrestling. And it's like we said, it's not black and white, but I think those are good tension points that you guys have wrestled through. And it hasn't been the same answer every time, which I think is cool too. You've kind of ebbed and flowed and seen the success of it. I guess the last question I have on the equity rate or the capital raise piece for you guys is, how have you guys, how am I going to say this? So there's a lot of organizations out there that need to raise capital, and you guys came from a ministry background, navigators. And I don't know your full story, but this massive Rolodex of, 5,000 LinkedIn connections and business and all this to go after. And so I think a lot of people end up in that spot and they're like, okay, well, my network doesn't have anybody to raise capital from. Like, where do I go? What do I start? And obviously there's some groups. I'm not asking for who that is. I'm asking for if you guys were in that same boat, how did you approach that? How did you build relationships in a way that got you to that capital? And how would you coach somebody else doing that in a similar season?
I think that one of the things is, it goes back to authenticity. It's authenticity and intentionality. Some of our capital raises have come out of being just like, man, this is who we are. This is what I'm doing. And I'm really intentional about this. And every time I meet somebody, I'm not angling for money, and I'm not angling for a cash raise. I'm like, what I'm really doing is I'm finding it came to the spot where I'm like, I'm literally going into conversations wondering, I wonder if I could help you. And that's how I started it. And almost taken by surprise on one of our investors, like, oh, maybe you fit as one of our investments. I was like, oh, that would be great. And then starts the 6 months of due diligence where I want to pull my hair out because, we have to go through 5-year financial knowledge. But
totally,
But it starts off it's almost counterintuitive in a sense. Yes, you got to go out and knock on doors and make emails and ask for introductions, because I came from a Midwest, family. And dad was pastor, and that was just our world. And so it's now we live in a world where we're like, hey, I want to show you, I want to talk to you about this Western Kenya plan of ours.
Yeah.
And can you think of somebody that might be interested in hearing about it or helping us get there? And that's where I've been now. It's just looking and not looking for a hard sell, because the reality is nobody wants that. And I don't want that. And that's not me. I got to be authentic. And I think what we're doing is so fun, and it's extraordinary in the sense that we've got such a unique position that it's like, man, whoever gets to be on board with this is lucky. And not in a pretentious way, but this is great. Who wouldn't want to do this? It's coffee.
Yeah.
It's Africa.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. No, that's cool. And I think those are good, helpful words for anyone in that boat. Well, cool, man. What's going on that you guys are excited about? What's on the horizon here? You guys are in a cool growth season. As we kind of close out here, what are the pieces you're most excited about that would be helpful to share?
Man, our best year of harvest just wrapping up in Burundi, and which is just quality. And like we produced more coffee this year than we did the last 3 years combined by probably double.
Wow.
Which is great. And so we're actually going to have a special private collection auction. So this is kind of one of the first ones kind of done. We're doing it with this great group. And so it's wonderful. Harvest in Uganda now. As soon as Burundi's done, now Uganda's about to launch, which is
cool.
We actually have 6,000 farmers waiting to work with us, which is just like, we're like, okay, well, how do we like start drinking from a hose in Uganda? And then I think the third thing is just that we're so excited about Western Uganda. We're just looking at how we grow there. How do we go there and make the same impact that we did, but contextually as we did in Burundi and now Uganda? And so we're just chomping at the bit, Ryan. It's just fun to see these avenues and the demand that our specialty roasters see, that because they see the quality and they see the story.
Cool.
And that's what we started it all with.
Awesome. What with Kenya, the stuff you guys are about to launch there, there's a couple of unique pieces of that you're like the community's invested economic interest and stuff that you're doing there. What, lay that out a little bit, just like how you guys have approached Kenya a little differently with what you're hoping to launch there.
Yeah, it's the coolest part is that, it was not our first choice. Our first choice, we hit some loggerheads. It just didn't work. And so as we were exploring this group on Mount Elgon, far Western Kenya, one of our staff was out there just looking around, and they're like, this group of association said, we've been praying for someone like Long Miles to come and partner with us. And so I just happened to be in Kenya at the time. And so they're like, can you come out here? So I took like a 14-hour drive, and they gathered in like the Kenya Forestry Service and the lieutenant governor and this group of it was 120 of the leaders that represented 3,000 families that were on the side of this mountain. And they're like, we see what we've done wrong. They deforested the whole side of the mountain. And so they've been kicked off, and there was actually war there in 2007. And so there's all this conflict. They're like, but we see it now. We see the light, but the government can't help us. Our community can't help themselves. The youth have no jobs. And now what we see is that we need someone to step in and just not solve our problem, just be a partner with us. And so it was kind of like, oh, that's why the last thing failed. We weren't supposed to be there. And I'm not a huge, this is where I have to be, kind of a guy, but I was like, man, this lines up, impacting community who want us there so that we can help environmentally impact the side of this mountain, but also just help rejuvenate a community that has lost hope. Yeah, and
totally
be a part of hope. And it's just like, ooh, it sends goose pimples just thinking about it. So hopefully you can come visit me on Mount Elgon.
Man. That's so cool. Well, and I think, and maybe it's a good ending point, that's the goal of missions. Whether you're a Christian or a non-Christian, you see the hurt and the burdens of the world and you want to go give hope, and as a Christian missionary, you got to help people experience hope and help them out of what, the challenge that they have day to day. And then the conversation's ability for where did that hope come from and stuff just opens up. And so I think it's cool. Like when you have actual tangible hope you're bringing and you're bringing that message, I think that's the shift in global missions that has been really deeply needed and is happening. And so it's not just that's happening, but it's happening through business and it's economic and it's all these things. And I just get super stoked and excited about that. And it's Yeah, it's really cool that you guys are doing that. So man, thanks for all the work you guys are doing and all the awesome stuff and the people you guys are helping. If people want to find out more, learn more, how do they find you guys?
longmilescoffee.com,
Okay.
our website. Otherwise, Instagram is great. My wife she's a photographer and she does awesome work. Just Long Miles Coffee on there. Great way. Cool. Send us a direct message on there and we'll get back to you.
And if someone's like, well, I want to try this coffee now, like this is the coffee I want to drink because I'm inspired. They can't just buy coffee from you guys unless maybe they roast in their basement or something. But like, what are some of the solid places? And, you know, maybe one of your specialty roaster clients going to get mad because you point them to another, but what are a few of the options that people could go if like they want to taste it?
Man, that's the most devastating question because there is so many amazing roasters across the United States. I'm sure most of your people are listening in the United States, maybe Canada, Europe, but I mean, we've got everyone from East Coast to West Coast. And if you go on the website, there's actually coffee, there's a coffee tab and we've got a lot of those guys listed. I mean, if I started, they would all be mad because
I know. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So go to the tab on the website, find the one around you guys. I'll say a couple in Denver. I think Huckleberry has stuff with you guys. Oh, yeah. I know that one for sure. And so Huckleberry Roasters in Colorado, we'll throw that out there. I threw it out there. Ben didn't throw it out there. They're a great roaster.
Switchback just down the road in Colorado Springs has some.
Oh, cool.
You travel out west, you got like St. Frank and Ritual and Olympia and Blue Bottle and Dark Horse, and then East Coast Parlor and Passenger and Tandem and Brandywine. In the Midwest, you got like Dogwood and Madcap and Oddly Correct. And like, it's just like, think of I just feel spoiled. Like there's not a bad coffee. Like if you go to any of your favorite coffee shops in the world and like, it's just like, we get to be their friends and they get to serve our coffee. And it's just like,
super cool.
This is fun. This is great.
That's awesome, man. Well, yeah. So we'll put a link to that, in the show notes to that page on the website so people can try it. And yeah, man, thanks for being on. Thanks for all the work you guys are doing. And it's a fun conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to another week of the Feast Over Famine podcast. We are so thankful you guys are here and listening. As always, hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast listening apps. We would love to keep you guys up to date on new episodes that are coming out when we're launching new episodes, when we're launching new seasons, and everything in between. So when we're in season, episodes are dropping every single Wednesday. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're up to date. Also, if you're loving what we're doing, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, where we're constantly posting about our projects, what they're doing, what kinds of things we're working on. We'll recycle some podcasts, things about our partners, all sorts of fun stuff that you want to see. So hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff, and check out what we're doing there. And yeah, we're stoked that you guys are listening. We hope this has been really fruitful, and we will catch you guys next week. And lastly, as you guys all know, we always talk about all sorts of things with impact investing, investment opportunities, entity structure modeling, how projects are getting capital. And as a disclaimer and a reminder, Feast Over Famine does not provide legal, tax, accounting, or other professional advice. You should consult professional advisors concerning the legal, tax, or accounting consequences of any activities related to your project or a project you're supporting. Feast Over Famine doesn't consult, advise, or assist with the offer or sale of securities in any capital raising transaction. We don't do that for the direct or indirect promotion or maintenance of a market for any securities. And Feast Over Famine does not engage in any activities for which an investment advisor's registration or license is required under the U.S. Investment Advisors Act of 1940 or under any other applicable federal or state law, or for which a broker's or dealer's registration or license is required under the U.S. Securities Exchange Act of 1934 or under any other applicable federal or state law. So there's your investment disclaimer. Hopefully that's helpful if you need it. And if you ever have any questions on that side of things, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Take care.